First Contact and Assessment. The vast chamber of the Galactic Coalition hummed with an anxious energy as representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered for an emergency session. The Coalition, formed over 8 centuries ago to maintain peace and share resources across known space, rarely convened with such urgency. High Arbiter Xelena, her translucent skin revealing flowing neural pathways beneath, activated the central holographic display. Her 6-fingered hands moved with practiced precision as she addressed the assembly. Honored representatives, we have discovered an anomaly in Sector 7, a developing civilization that defies our understanding. The hologram displayed a blue-green planet, third from a yellow star. We call them humans, Xelena continued. They have achieved rudimentary space travel but remain confined to their solar system. Yet their psychological profile is unprecedented. Science Director Tavik, a being composed of crystalline structures that clicked and chimed as he moved, stepped forward. His voice resonated through the chamber, each word accompanied by harmonious tones. For the past 50 cycles, we have monitored this species secretly. They have survived conditions that should have caused societal collapse. Observe. The hologram shifted to show scenes from Earth, cities devastated by natural disasters being rebuilt, communities enduring pandemics with ingenuity and compassion, humans pushing through extreme environments that would break most species. Most notable, Tavik continued, is their neurological response to crisis. The display showed human brain scans alongside comparative data from other species, where other species' cognitive functions diminished during stress. Human brains showed increased activity in problem-solving regions. They don't shut down in crisis. They innovate. They adapt. They even employ something called humor during their darkest moments. Ambassador Krell, whose armored exoskeleton marked him as a member of the warlike Vesperi, rose from his seat. This presents a clear danger. A species that thrives on adversity will inevitably seek it out. If they reach interstellar capability, they could destabilize centuries of peace. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Or, countered Representative Mina, her feathered crest rising with emotion, they could become our greatest allies against the unknown threats beyond coalition space. The debate raged for hours. Some representatives advocated for containment, limiting humans to their solar system permanently. Others suggested careful contact and potential membership in the coalition. The third faction proposed something more controversial: testing. Helena raised her hands for silence. We will proceed with caution. A limited observation team will establish first contact while we conduct controlled challenges to measure human resilience. Only then will we decide. Dr. Elena Chen stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching Earth rotate below. 16 years as an astronaut had not diminished her wonder at the view. The calm blue of oceans, the textured browns and greens of continents, the swirling white of cloud systems, home, in all its fragile beauty. Dr. Chen, you're needed in command. Came the voice of Commander Jackson over the comm system. Urgent. When Elena entered the command module, she found the crew floating in stunned silence, staring at the main view screen. A vessel of impossible design hovered 3 kilometers from the station, sleek, silver, with geometric patterns that seemed to shift as she watched. It appeared 20 minutes ago, Jackson said quietly. No approach vector, no engine signature. Just appeared. And then this. He gestured to a secondary screen displaying a message in perfect English. Greetings, people of Earth. We are representatives of the Galactic Coalition. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations. Please respond. 12 hours later, Elena sat across from an alien being in a hastily established meeting room at United Nations headquarters in New York. The alien, who called herself Ambassador Lyra, appeared almost human, except for her iridescent skin and eyes with vertical pupils. We have observed your species for some time, Lyra explained, her voice melodic through the translation device. Your resilience is remarkable. The coalition wishes to learn more about humanity before offering formal relations. By learn more, you mean evaluate whether we're a threat, Elena replied directly. As Earth's foremost astrobiologist and the first human to make contact, she had been chosen as humanity's initial representative. Lyra's expression shifted subtly. Directness, another human trait. Yes, there are concerns among some coalition members. Your species responds to adversity unlike any we've encountered. Is that a problem? It could be, or it could make you valuable allies. Time will tell. What Lyra didn't mention was that the testing had already begun. In the Coalition's observation vessel in high orbit, Science Director Tavik reviewed the data from Phase 1 testing. Across Earth, carefully engineered natural disasters had been triggered. Floods in coastal regions, communications failures in major cities, power grid disruptions in extreme climate zones. Remarkable, he mused, reviewing footage of humans forming impromptu rescue teams during flash floods in Southeast Asia. No central coordination, yet they self-organize effectively. And look here. The screen showed hospital workers in a powerless facility manually operating life support equipment, working in shifts through the night while telling jokes to frighten patients. Their stress hormones are elevated, noted his assistant, but cognitive function remains optimal. They're afraid, yet functional. Tavik adjusted his crystalline form thoughtfully. Proceed to Phase 2. As diplomatic relations were formally established between Earth and the Coalition, most humans remained unaware they were being systematically tested. Small Coalition delegations arrived in major cities, exchanging knowledge and technology, while observation teams monitored humanity's responses to escalating challenges. When unprecedented solar flares knocked out satellites and threatened global communications, humans created analog backup systems within days. When engineered crop failures threatened food supplies, communities developed local alternatives and sharing networks. Each crisis was weathered with determination and creativity that astonished Coalition observers. 6 months into the contact period, the Coalition's Oversight Committee convened secretly. They consistently exceed survival projections, Tavik reported. Their neural plasticity allows them to normalize crisis conditions rapidly. Most remarkably, they maintain social cohesion through humor and something they call hope, a concept our translation systems struggle to fully capture. Ambassador Krell's armored form shifted impatiently. This only confirms my concerns. Their adaptability makes them unpredictable. Unpredictability leads to chaos. High Arbiter Xalena studied the latest data. We need more conclusive results. Authorize the Phase 3 testing. The alert came at 3:17 am. Elena was jolted awake by her emergency communications device. Dr. Chen, we have a situation. It was General Rivera from Global Defense Command. Multiple unidentified objects on approach vector. Not Coalition signatures. Within an hour, Elena stood in the Pentagon's Situation Room, watching as 12 asteroid-sized objects moved toward Earth at impossible speeds. Coalition Ambassador Lyra had joined via secure link, her expression unreadable. These are not Coalition vessels, Lyra stated. We are analyzing the signatures now. They're on impact trajectories, announced a military analyst. First impact projected in 15 hours. Subsequent impacts at 2-hour intervals across all continents. The room erupted in controlled chaos as officials began emergency protocols. Helena studied Lyra's face on the screen. Is this a test? She asked quietly. Lyra's expression flickered momentarily. I assure you, Dr. Chen, the Coalition would never endanger a developing species too. Because if it's a test, Elena continued, we'd appreciate you ending it now so we can focus on real threats. For a moment, Lyra said nothing. Then, you believe this is fabricated. I believe the timing is convenient, and I believe you're studying our responses. After a long pause, Lyra spoke carefully. The objects are real. Their origin is unknown to us. This is not Coalition testing. Whether true or not, Humanity had no choice but to respond as if the threat were genuine. What followed was unprecedented global cooperation. Nations shared military resources, scientists worked around the clock on diversion strategies, and civilian populations mobilized for potential evacuation. What the coalition observers noted was not just the practical response, but how humans maintained morale. Memes about the impending disaster spread across the internet. Musicians composed end-of-the-world songs that became instant hits. Children continued going to school, where teachers calmly incorporated asteroid science into their lessons. When the first object changed course unexpectedly 12 hours later, avoiding impact, coalition observers recorded the human reaction, not relief, but intensified determination. Within hours, humans had adapted their theories and strategies. By the time the last object veered away from Earth, humanity had developed 3 different asteroid diversion technologies, established a global emergency response network, and most surprisingly to the coalition, created art, music, and literature about the experience. In the coalition's secret chamber, High Arbiter Alina reviewed the results with growing amazement. They didn't just survive, she said. They created during crisis. They found meaning in potential extinction. Tavik's crystalline form pulsed with excitement. Phase 3 results confirm what we suspected. Humans don't just adapt to survive. They transform adversity into advancement. The neural pathways they form during crisis become permanent, allowing them to build on each experience. The question remains, Ambassador Krell insisted. Are they too dangerous to join the coalition? Felina studied the data once more. Perhaps the real question is, can the coalition afford not to include them? The ultimate test and recognition. 1 year after first contact, humanity had begun to integrate coalition technology, establishing a permanent diplomatic station in lunar orbit and sending representatives to coalition headquarters. The testing continued, though more subtly. Coalition scientists were particularly interested in human adaptability to off-world environments. The first human colony on Mars faced unexpected life support failures. The research station orbiting Jupiter's moon Europa experienced mysterious power fluctuations. In each case, humans not only survived but improved their systems based on the experience. Dr. Elena Chen, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the coalition, became increasingly suspicious. The pattern was too consistent, the timing of crises too perfectly spaced. During a private meeting with Ambassador Lyra, she decided to be direct. These aren't coincidences, are they? The Mars colony's air recyclers failing exactly when supply ships were delayed. The radiation shield malfunction at Europa Station during solar maximum. Lyra's iridescent skin shimmered with subtle patterns that Elena had learned indicated discomfort. I'm not authorized to discuss. Humans aren't lab animals, Elena interrupted. If the coalition has concerns about our readiness for space, they should address them openly. It's more complicated, Lyra admitted. Some coalition members fear your species' psychological resilience. They believe it makes you unpredictable, potentially dangerous. So you're testing our breaking point. We're assessing your responses to determine compatibility with coalition protocols. Elena leaned forward. And if we fail these tests, containment protocols would be implemented. Your species would be restricted to your solar system until deemed safe for integration. The revelation sent a chill through Elena, but outwardly she remained calm. I understand. Thank you for your honesty. In the Oversight Committee's secure chamber, Science Director Tavik presented his latest findings. Humans have begun recognizing the pattern in our testing scenarios, he reported. Their ambassador has confronted Lyra directly. High Arbiter Xelena's neural pathways flashed with concern. Have they lodged formal complaints? No, Tavik replied. Most interesting, they've continued participating in what they believe are tests, adapting their responses to demonstrate maximum resilience. Ambassador Krell's armored exoskeleton clicked with agitation. They're performing for us. This invalidates the data. On the contrary, countered Tavik, It demonstrates remarkable metacognition. They've identified the assessment parameters and are strategically showcasing their capabilities. Manipulation, Krell insisted. Deception, or diplomacy, suggested Selena. They're communicating their value as potential allies. After lengthy debate, the committee approved what would be the final and most extreme test, the isolation protocol. The emergency alert sounded throughout Lunar Base Alpha. Commander Sofia Rodriguez raced to the control center, where her team already monitored rapidly changing data streams. "Status report," she demanded. "Complete communications blackout," reported her second-in-command. "No signal from Earth, Mars colonies, or coalition outposts. Long-range sensors are detecting some kind of energy barrier surrounding our entire solar system. Life support. Operating normally, but we're cut off from supply chains. Current resources will last approximately 8 months." Rodriguez studied the data, her mind racing through possibilities. Theory. Unknown technology, possibly coalition in origin. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. The commander made a quick decision. "Initiate emergency protocol Omega. We assume hostile action until proven otherwise." Within hours, the 200 personnel of Lunar Base Alpha had reorganized into crisis teams. Hydroponics specialists began maximizing food production. Engineers analyzed the energy barrier for weaknesses. Communications experts attempted to penetrate the blackout with modified equipment. What no one knew was that every human outpost, from Earth cities to Mars colonies to space stations, was experiencing the same isolation. Each believed they were alone in facing the crisis. In the coalition observation vessel beyond the barrier, Tavik monitored the responses with growing fascination. "Remarkable diversity in problem-solving approaches," he noted. "Earth populations are establishing local governance and resource-sharing systems. The Mars colonies are developing new terraforming techniques to become self-sufficient. And look at this." The screen showed Lunar Base Alpha, where engineers had modified their communications array in ways coalition scientists hadn't anticipated. They're attempting to create quantum-entangled communication devices using their limited resources. Tavik marveled. "The theoretical understanding required for this attempt alone exceeds our projections for their capabilities by 70 years. Ambassador Krell studied the data with reluctant interest. "How are they maintaining social cohesion without central authority?" "Through something they call trust," Tavik explained. "Even believing they're alone, they're organizing collaborative systems based on shared goals, and their stress responses remain controlled through humor and creativity." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the observation vessel. A technician's voice was tinged with panic. "Director, we're detecting energy signatures attempting to breach the isolation barrier from multiple locations." On the monitors, they watched as simultaneously, across different human settlements, makeshift devices activated. The isolation barrier, designed to be impenetrable to current human technology, flickered. "Impossible," whispered Krell. "They couldn't have developed counter-technology this quickly." "They didn't," replied Tavik, studying the readings. "They repurposed our own technology we shared during diplomatic exchanges. They're using our communications protocols against the barrier." High Arbiter Selena, who had been observing silently, stepped forward. "End the test. Now." On the 15th day of isolation, as Commander Rodriguez was reviewing the latest breakthrough in their barrier penetration technology, the isolation field simply vanished. Communications flooded back, revealing that every human settlement had been experiencing the same phenomenon. Within hours, emergency conferences connected leaders across Earth and off-world colonies. They quickly pieced together what had happened and what it meant. 3 days later, Dr. Elena Chen stood before the full Galactic Coalition Assembly, her expression composed but determined. "Distinguished representatives," she began, "for the past year, humanity has been subjected to a series of tests without our knowledge or consent. These tests endangered lives, disrupted developing colonies, and violated the diplomatic agreements established at first contact." Murmurs rippled through the assembly of diverse beings. Alina continued, her voice steady. We understand the Coalition's concerns. New species bring uncertainty. Humanity's psychological resilience may seem unpredictable to civilizations that have achieved stability through different evolutionary paths. She gestured to the data displays around the chamber, showing the results of human responses to the various tests. But these results tell a story beyond mere survival. They show innovation, collaboration, ethical decision-making even under extreme duress. They show humanity's fundamental nature. We don't just endure adversity, we transform because of it. Ambassador Krell rose to speak. Your adaptability remains concerning. Species that thrive on challenge historically seek to create it when none exists. Elena nodded, a valid concern. Yet our history shows another pattern. Our greatest advancements came not from seeking conflict, but from overcoming collective challenges. Space exploration, medical breakthroughs, technological innovations, all emerged from our desire to improve conditions, not worsen them. She looked around the chamber. We passed your tests. Now we propose one of our own. Trust. Accept humanity as full coalition members, not as subjects to be studied or contained. In return, we offer what the coalition most needs, a fresh perspective on problems your civilizations have struggled with for centuries. High Arbiter Xelena stepped forward. And if we refuse, if containment is deemed necessary? Elena smiled slightly. With respect, Arbiter, your isolation test proved containment is ultimately impossible. Humans will continue to adapt, to innovate, to overcome. The only question is whether we do so as your allies or on our own. The Assembly deliberated for 3 days. Arguments for containment remained strong, but the testing data was irrefutable. Humanity's psychological resilience, combined with their rapid technological adaptation, made them either the greatest threat the Coalition had ever faced, or potentially its greatest asset. In the end, the vote was narrow: 14 civilizations for partnership, 13 for containment. The formal declaration was entered into Coalition records with a simple statement about humanity that would echo through galactic history. Humans are unfazed by threats that would break other minds. It is in their nature. In the years that followed, humanity's integration into the Coalition transformed both. Human innovation accelerated Coalition technology. Human psychological techniques helped other species develop greater resilience, and when the long-feared unknown threats finally emerged from deep space 20 years later, it was a combined human coalition force that faced them, unfazed.